Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you something. The more information that comes out regarding everything and all of this declass and all of this disclosure, I've waited 12 years for this. And I'm not the only one. There are endless people who have waited copious amounts of years to have all of this panic and all of this information just drop on copious amounts of guilty people, their very nefarious associations, and everything else. This is highly satisfying. It truly is, and it's one hell of a time to be alive. And it's hard to keep up because, of course, everything is moving so quickly. But let me attempt to knock a few things off of the plate here regarding a couple of different topics and, of course, their connections as well. First of all, I put together another Substack article over on the americanclassroom.substack.com very quickly, and it's called Epstein Videos, the DOJ's release of approximately 1,390 videos. I have the direct link to where you can view these videos. You click on the website, and then you'll see a giant list of the web address files that have the video uploaded. And then all you have to do is highlight the video, and then you right-click on your computer, right-click on your mouse, and then it'll say go to, and then it has the website already highlighted. You go to that, and then you can see the video clip. Most of them are redacted, as one might expect. You can make out the general ages of some of the people because the full figure of the individual isn't necessarily redacted, so you can kind of detect some things. Some videos are socialization videos, whereas others are, we'll say, private sexual-related videos. Again, I've seen maybe, 3 or 4 of them. You get the gist of it. Pretty good understanding as to what it is. But again, there's 1,390 of them, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But again, we have a pretty good idea as to what they've done and who was involved and a number of other things. You can also basically make this assumption that the more heavily redacted videos are ones that involve more than one person, and in many cases, almost the entire video clip is redacted, which would almost indicate that there's some kind of an act transpiring. So again, I'm going to leave it there, but I did want to mention this because, again, I put this particular explanation in the article itself, so basically I'm going to read from this, but there are endless people, of course, openly saying, well, why is it that particular portions of the Epstein files and the emails are redacted? Why not just release everything and expose everything? Well, the fact is you can't do that when there are ongoing sealed or unsealed indictments and or grand juries and or investigations taking place. I mean, you just can't. We've heard the FBI and the DOJ consistently say that it has to do with protecting the victims and their identities and privacy. There is no doubt about that. But it also has to do with compliance with court orders and protective seals. Not to mention, of course, the preservation of ongoing investigations, and that's kind of just the one part here of this explanation that I want to read. And again, I ripped this off of Grok because I asked it that question. So, why is it that a lot of these redactions are still in place? It says again the following here, quote, information linked to active criminal probes, including names and emails that could reveal investigative details, may be redacted to avoid compromising law enforcement efforts. This is authorized under exemptions, in the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA 5 U.S.C. subsection 552b7, and similar transparency laws which protect records that could interfere with enforcement proceedings. In the DOJ's 2025 release, officials were required to explain such redactions, though criticisms arose over inconsistent application. When you're talking about information that is this vast and this amount of information, there's going to be certain redactions that are not made that should have been made. But at the same time, there's this angle too, which is just one that I want to sort of remind people of, that if you have leverage over your enemy, why would you unseal their name affiliated with illegality when you can still have leverage over them? because the moment that you unseal their name and they're arrested, you no longer have leverage. I would assume that, again, one of the things taking place is that people are being squeezed. We already know that people are resigning as a result of their names being affiliated with these particular drops. I believe it was even Whoopi Goldberg was in a great deal of these posts. Of course, one of the hosts on The View. And she, of course, is in there, and she's basically having one of her representatives ask Jeffrey Epstein if she can use his plane to fly overseas to some charitable event. Again, all of the screaming that these people have done regarding Donald Trump, and as it turns out within these documents, Donald Trump's clearly an informant. He's working with good guys in order to take down bad guys. Makes sense. But here's Whoopi Goldberg again asking for Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I just find it very interesting, again, the number of people who knew him. But again, at the same time, that public embarrassment is leverage for the good guys. And if it's tied specifically to illegality, you wouldn't release that information if you can squeeze that person and get more names and information out of them, either to cut a deal or give them a reduced sentence or whatever it may be. Because in RICO cases like this, you're usually going after the bigger fish. We know Netanyahu is involved in this. We know that Keir Starmer of the UK is involved in this, Prime Minister over there. Copious amounts of people are directly involved in this. But as I've said in the past too, you would want to use deterrence. You would want to release some names in order to make other people panic and maybe even off themselves. Because that, of course, would save taxpayer money, and that's even a Q drop, where it openly says, hey, we recommend you off yourself. That's not what Q said, but that's what they were alluding to. Because you would be doing our nation a great service by saving the taxpayers time and money. So, again, a lot of different angles and a lot of different reasons for it, but I'm not screaming like the black pillars about the redactions. I'm not that concerned with it. And again, this is only the beginning. And this has been going on for quite some time. Again, there's already endless files out there that exist having to do with Epstein. This is just the most recent drop, and this isn't all that they have. They're going to release much more, and it's going to get way more graphic and way more specific and way more dirty. I guarantee it. Okay, now I want to move on to this. In the last episode, I called her Samantha Guthrie. It's Savannah Guthrie. My apologies. I think I said Samantha a million times. This Savannah Guthrie mother kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie is, again, beyond highly suspicious. So let me just go over a couple of things real quick because there's a lot of pattern recognition here. First of all, Megyn Kelly's taking this hook, line, and sinker. She swallowed the whole thing. And she's all over her show bringing this up with regularity now, and what a travesty this is, and let's look into this, and blah, blah, blah. She clearly believes it. I don't believe this. I just don't. There are too many other angles in all of this, and too many connections that are highly suspicious. Let's just look at a couple of angles from sort of a common sense standpoint. If you're a high-profile individual who's in the limelight all of the time the way that Savannah Guthrie is, not to mention her, of course, very famously going after Nicholas Sandmann. You may recall that. NBC was sued into the ground as a result of all of that, her attacking Nicholas Sandmann right to his face. Why would you do such a thing? How could you do that? And he's like, I didn't do anything. Again, she's a tool. She's a complete tool, and she's a puppet for everybody who, again, runs NBC, which we know that most of those individuals are Jewish. Her husband, of course, is Jewish. I'll get into him here in just a minute. But at a common sense face value, if you're in the limelight like that and you have a parent who is elderly, why would they be living so far away from you, number one? Number two, why would they be living by themselves in a rather large estate? It's a nice looking home. And number three, why would you not have security everywhere and security cameras everywhere? Again, as the story goes, there's allegedly some blood on the front stoop of their house. The Ring doorbell camera is gone. Not that that matters, because That video footage is uploaded to an unknown server in an unknown location, and all that video footage is saved. You can steal the camera, and you're not actually taking anything, really. So again, if the power goes out, my understanding is that the Ring doorbell stops working. Because again, it's hooked up to the electricity. I understand that there's a battery inside of it, a couple of AA batteries. I've installed one before, but it is hooked up to the electricity. It just seems odd that that would be removed for some reason, as if the actual device itself stores video footage, which I don't believe it does. It just transmits it, again, wirelessly to a device and then, of course, to a larger server. And police, of course, can easily access this information, with a simple phone call to Ring doorbell and say, hey, here's the address, here's the username, here's the person, give us the footage and send us the footage. You would think that they would be able to do that instantly. The fact that there are so many steps that apparently have not been taken here are, I think, astounding. So there's certainly that aspect of it, not to mention she allegedly has heart problems and a pacemaker and XYZ. Which, again, a little side note, as I mentioned earlier, just randomly I'll turn on Fox News and almost every single time they're talking about Nancy Guthrie. It's beyond ridiculous. And I did it again around 11:30, and sure enough, they were. Even one of their news hosts, John Roberts, he was talking about how he has a pacemaker. And his pacemaker, again, attaches to an app on his phone, and it tells him when it's working and what it's doing and how things are operating in XYZ. Of course, none of that seems healthy. But either way, why do you think John Roberts, of course, another side note, why do you think he has a pacemaker? He said he got his pacemaker in January of 2022. So, what did John Roberts do to himself that would cause him to have a pacemaker? I think we know, because he even put out tweets back in the day openly saying, is anybody else having heart problems after taking the shots? Whoops-a-daisy. Again, I'm telling you, if I had a nickel for every time I was right, I'd have bags of nickels. Anyway, back to Guthrie. The simple fact that they can't obtain this footage quickly is astounding. And the simple fact that her name is being plastered all over the web and all over Fox News and endless news channels almost, again, directly indicates that it's a psychological operation and that something about this isn't right. That they're all faking, or they're all blackmailed, or someone who knows the family has taken the person, or someone, again, related to the Clintons has taken the person, or they're just on a vacation and they're basically trying to make it sound like this person's life is in danger. When you take all of that and you throw in the TMZ element, and that TMZ allegedly got an email from a so-called ransom person who's demanding money and whatever else, and then the same with another local news outlet there in New York, that seems, again, a bit suspicious because Harvey Levin of TMZ is brought up in the Epstein files. And so are many of Savannah Guthrie's, there you go, I almost said Samantha again, Savannah Guthrie's husband's business associates. So let me get into that now, too. Here's a little grok explanation, having to do with Savannah Guthrie's husband, Michael Feldman. It says the following: Michael Feldman is not directly named in the Jeffrey Epstein files. However, the Glover Park Group, a Washington, D.C.-based public affairs firm that Feldman co-founded in 2001, around when Epstein was doing his worst, is mentioned in passing in one of the documents from Dataset 11. And then they have a direct reference to it. The reference appears in a communication involving economist Larry Summers, we'll talk about him a little bit later, where it was suggested that Epstein contacts someone at the firm noting that, quote, he has helped Clinton and General Petraeus, unquote. There is no indication of any direct interaction between Epstein and the Glover Park Group, nor any evidence of wrongdoing by Feldman or the firm in relation to Epstein. Some online speculation has linked this mention to Feldman's past work with figures like Bill Clinton and Al Gore, but it remains unsubstantiated. Well, we can substantiate it because why else would they make that direct connection? So there's certainly a Clinton connection here. And of course, what are the Clintons about to do? The Clintons are allegedly about to testify to Jim Comer's oversight committee regarding Epstein and their connections with Epstein. And apparently it's going to be televised. And allegedly, at least based on the Twitter account, Hillary Clinton, if that's really her, is actually demanding that it be televised. So before I get into that even more, let me backtrack briefly and play the ransom video that apparently Savannah Guthrie, I assume her sister and her brother, although there would be no way that I would recognize these two individuals, but I'm telling you, they look very recognizable. It's like I've seen them before, but there would be no reason that I have. This video alone, again, sort of at a face value, common sense standpoint, doesn't sit well. It seems over-dramatized. It seems overacted. They have scripts that they're reading, which is, again, a bit strange. The brother is sitting there with his arms crossed, no script in his hands, but Savannah and allegedly her sister have a script, and they're reading from it and taking turns. I just don't think this is what you do if your parent has so-called been kidnapped. Do you make a video and put it out there talking about specifically, as you'll hear them say, talking about the kind of person she is? It just seems odd. So I'm going to play this 3.5-minute video right now, and then I'll get back into Larry Summers and Savannah Guthrie's husband's connections to the Clintons and other things in just a second. So give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day. Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. And she needs it not to suffer. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. please reach out to us. Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom. We love you.
Sorry, I don't buy it. I just don't. It's not authentic. Again, it's scripted. It's off. It's childish. The son doesn't say anything until the very end. He clearly looks like he's the oldest of all of them. Why is it that he's not talking? Again, it's not a thing that you would do in a situation like that. You would let the police handle the situation. You would let the police make a communication like that. You would use lawyers and go-betweens. That's what you would do. You wouldn't put yourself out there directly the way that they have. Again, the simple fact that it's being plastered all over the news channels for this one person almost indicates that it's fake in some way simply because they don't do this for anybody else. And in the past, when they have done it for somebody else, what typically happens? The person has either been abducted by somebody that they know for nefarious reasons, or the entire thing was just fake to begin with, like the John Benet Ramsey thing. Again, the same people pushing this as if it's real are the same people who think that Charlie Kirk is dead and Erica Kirk is a grieving widow, when clearly that's not the case. I mean, hell, she was on Fox News again the other day. I just saw it at the bottom of the screen for like 5 seconds. Erica Kirk's going to be on this show at 3 p.m. It's like, why? Is this the behavior of people who are really in pain? Or are these actors? And bad ones at that. Now here's the connections again with Savannah Guthrie's husband, Michael Feldman, and Larry Summers. It says the following here about Larry Summers. Larry Summers, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, under President Clinton, former president of Harvard University and prominent economist, had extensive documented ties to Jeffrey Epstein. His name, of course, has been affiliated with the emails and flight logs and related documents released in recent years, particularly the major batches of the late 2025 from congressional and DOJ sources. Long-term correspondence emails shows that Summers and Epstein exchanged messages from at least 2013 through July 5th of 2019, the day before Epstein's arrest on federal sex trafficking charges. Topics range from politics to current events, foreign policy, and gossip, including about Donald Trump, to personal advice. In one notable 2018-2019 exchange, Summers sought Epstein's input on pursuing a romantic relationship with a younger woman he described as a mentee. While Summers was married, Epstein called himself Summers' wingman and offered dating tips in sometimes crude terms. Summers has since described this ongoing contact as a major error in judgment, quote-unquote, and expressed rather deep shame. Again, flight logs, Harvard connections and donations during Summers' presidency at Harvard. From 2001 to 2006, the university received about $9.1 million in donations from Epstein. Prior to Epstein's 2008 guilty plea in Florida for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Epstein had unusual access to Harvard circles during this period. Summers' wife, Alicia New, I've read her name on the show before, a Harvard professor, also corresponded with Epstein, for example, seeking help for a poetry/project-related interview in 2014. I would essentially say this too, just kind of in summary. that when it comes to these people and their association, how many people are you friends with who have been directly tied to other people who have either killed themselves, been murdered and have yet been told to the public that they killed themselves, or are child traffickers and or pedophiles and or individuals who have illegal underage sex with minors? I mean, how many of those people are you friends with? Because I'm not friends with anybody like that. But these people are. And we're supposed to just assume what? That they wouldn't scheme something at some point or another to get a particular point across? Or they wouldn't, again, do a particular thing in order to blackmail somebody, or they wouldn't fake a particular thing in order to divert attention away from something else that's happening right now, which is arguably, outside of the Q drops, one of the largest declassifications of information that's been hidden from the public eye since the beginning of time. Let me read this one last post here. This is from Mia_Stretch on X, at Mia Stretch, and it says the following here. Insane timing. Savannah Guthrie's 84-year-old mom, Nancy, abducted from her bed in Tucson. Not to mention, I should say this, apparently the last people to see her were family members of her that dropped her off at her house. Again, what are the odds? They said, quote, hits exactly as Epstein files dump millions of Clinton-era pages. The Epstein files just blew the lid off the President Clinton-Al Gore era, yanking Democratic power circles back into the blast radius as long-buried questions about who knew what and who protected whom erupt. Savannah husband, Michael Feldman, a senior advisor, key Dem political insider, Clinton campaign chief, White House veteran under Bill Clinton and Al Gore, deputy legislative director, senior advisor, Gore's 2000 traveling chief of staff. Feldman was embedded, at the very center of Democratic power from 1993 to 2001, and those years line up exactly with Jeffrey Epstein's rise into elite political and social demonic circles. He came up through the United States Senate's inner circle machinery, moving straight into Democratic leadership operations, jumped to a high-stakes special election, then embedded himself in Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign. From there, he stepped directly into the Clinton White House, serving as Al Gore's deputy director of legislative affairs, then Gore's senior advisor and traveling chief of staff, until 2001, squarely inside the Clinton-Gore power core during its most. Right in that orbit during Epstein's peak. Connect the dots. Yeah. Again, how many people have friends like this? And how many people do you know have things like this happen to them, whether they be real and or fake? If you run in circles like this, you can manipulate copious amounts of people by making particular things, again, appear one way when in fact they are not that way. Or, again, if she's really missing, then it's clearly not for reasons having anything to do with the mother, but it has everything to do with, again, Savannah Guthrie, her ties, her husband's ties, etc., etc. But also being used, of course, as a distraction method as well. But I'm sorry, one way or another, I just don't buy it. I'm not believing it. In fact, I'll take it a step further regarding the Clintons. I find it interesting that Hillary Clinton is again on X describing how she wants her testimony to be public, her and her husband's testimony in front of the House Oversight Committee to be public. It reminded me again of a Q post specifically having to do with when these individuals are controlled, they'll do as they're told. This was Q post 24 on November 1st of 2017, and it says, any person making statements they will not be seeking re-election was put into submission. For the betterment of the country, not all will be prosecuted, and all will do as told. You will see more of this occur, not normal yet disregarded, and even on the D side, unquote. There would be absolutely no reason nor benefit for Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton to testify publicly about Epstein and their connections to Epstein. There's no way. However, Hillary Clinton is openly stated, and there are endless quotes about this, certainly in Roger Stone's book about the Clintons as well, I believe it was titled The Clintons' War on Women, where basically Hillary Clinton essentially said that if they ever come after me, I'll take down all of D.C. with me. Something along those lines. But it's possible, again, that the Clintons have been gotten to, and now they're being controlled by the good guys, and they're being forced to testify publicly when normally, in any other normal circumstance, they would not do that. So, yeah, there's more going on here. This is not drink it in at face value stuff. It's warfare, and deception is a part of warfare. And again, we are most certainly watching a show, I think, and I think that that's fair to say. It's just too odd. There are too many real criminal connections here. And again, take it back to Savannah Guthrie one more time, and then I promise I'll get off of her. But all of this, again, specifically having to do with her involvement in the 2020 stolen election. Again, she's a puppet for the deep state. She works for NBC. It's a Jewish-run organization. They all are. So she was out there engaging directly in treason and sedition. And then all of a sudden, in recent weeks, election fraud is back on the table for everybody to drink in. And then these Epstein files drop, showing again second and third degree connections to her. And of course, the groups that she runs with. In fact, another individual in one of the comments section, it was either on Rumble or it was on Gateway Pundit itself, which of course ran that initial audio that I just played. But when you get into the comments section, the people making comments about all of this don't even believe it. They find it to be completely fraudulent also. Let me read you just a couple of these. I mean, it's kind of funny. Let me see here. Here's one. It says, any pro knows if you are going to make a ransom demand, you have to provide proof that the person is still alive in your custody. And then somebody else asked the question, are you a pro? Another person said, okay, I'm sorry she's missing and I hope they find her, but what about all of those other missing people? So much more attention is being given to this case because Savannah's celebrity. And it says, that's how the world works, blah, blah, blah. Then another person said, if their mother is so gimped up and unwell, why was she allowed to live alone on such a large estate? The entire event doesn't pass the smell test. Again, people aren't buying this. They just aren't buying it. Again, Savannah Guthrie's a pushover, too, because she knew exactly what Matt Lauer was doing. One of the individuals made a comment about that. They were like, do you actually believe that Savannah Guthrie didn't know what Matt Lauer was doing at NBC? She was well aware. Everybody was well aware, but they all kept their mouths shut. Because they were interested in their employment. Their employment was the only thing that mattered. So if you can keep your mouth closed about a sexual predator who you're working with, why wouldn't you be able to keep your mouth closed about other things that are even more heinous than that? And that's bad enough. There's one final thing here I want to read. This is a page that was floating around on the internet, and it's from the book Conspirators' Hierarchy, The Committee of 300 by Dr. John Coleman. He specifically, of course, brought up Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Robert Maxwell in his book, and here's a particular passage for all of the individuals who apparently don't think that there's a Rothschild connection or a Mossad connection. Again, when you hear Rothschild, think Mossad, think Israel, think Jew. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. They're all the same people. It says the following here, quote, Jeffrey Epstein, whose name is little known to the American public, is one of the richest men in America, and despite the fact that he is now only in his mid-50s, he is very influential in the Rothschild sphere of influence. His company, initially called J. Epstein and Company, later called Financial Trust Company, handles the financial affairs of Jewish billionaires. The New York Times reported on July 1st of 2008 that Epstein's business is, quote, something of a mystery. He says he manages money for billionaires, but the only client he is willing to discuss is Leslie H. Wexner, the founder of Limited Brands, and, of course, Victoria's Secret. As Mr. Epstein explains it, he provides a specialized form of super-light financial advice. He counsels people on everything from taxes and trusts to prenuptial agreements and paternity suits, and even provides interior decorating tips for private jets. Industry sources say he charges flat annual fees ranging from $25 million to more than $100 million, quote unquote. It goes on, it says, evidently, one of young Epstein's roles in the Rothschild empire is, like other rising names in Jewish financial circles, to govern institutions long associated with the Rockefeller family name. Epstein is a member of the board of Rockefeller University, and he has also been a member of the Trilateral Commission, founded by David Rockefeller, and of the Council on Foreign Relations, widely known as a Rockefeller quote-unquote institution, but which, as we've noted repeatedly, is actually an offshoot of the London-based Rothschild entity known as the Royal Institute of International Affairs, quote-unquote. Again, mentions himself being Jewish, Ghislaine Maxwell, one of his close friends, daughter of Robert Maxwell, blah, 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 also Jewish, KGB, Israeli Mossad, it says, engaged in the world of high-level espionage for both Israelis Mossad and the Soviet KGB. It's undeniable. Again, we don't have friends like this. We don't have friends that suicide themselves, allegedly. It's all criminal, and it's all hinky, and all these people know each other, because they all work with one another. They shake each other's hands, they exchange money, they exchange favors, they blackmail one another. This is the game that they play. So I'm going to leave it there. But the timing of everything, of course, leads directly to this next thing that I want to bring up, which has to do with international censorship. The Foreign Censorship Threat, Part 2, this is directly from this document from the U.S. House of Representatives and their Committee on the Judiciary. They put together a 160-page document titled The Foreign Censorship Threat, Part 2, Europe's Decade-Long Campaign to Censor the Global Internet and How It Harms American Speech in the United States. I want to read the executive summary of this just briefly. It's only about 1 or 2 paragraphs. And then give you a taste as to, again, the level of censorship that certainly the European Union and endless foreign entities are interested in cracking down on here in the United States. And we know that ADL is directly involved in this, and so is Israel, Mossad, Netanyahu, all of them. Again, in the last war video, I played the 14-minute clip of Harrison Smith and his team over there at InfoWars compiling all of these videos of, again, all these heads of state and Jewish influencers and whatever openly saying, again, that they're coming after America. They're coming after freedom of speech. They're directly naming white Americans and any American who criticizes anybody having to do with Israel or Jews or whomever as being the number one enemy. Again, that clip is undeniable, and I highly recommend giving it a watch. It's all over X as well. I think I threw it up on Gab, but it's worth it, and it's frightening. Again, that is our enemy, because they're openly saying that we are their enemy. So, yeah, I mean, they're drawing the lines in the sand, and that's 100% fine. Let's see. Here's what the executive summary says. It says, quote, "The Committee on the Judiciary of the U.S. House of Representatives is investigating how and what extent foreign laws, regulations, and judicial orders compel, coerce, or influence companies to censor speech in the United States." Now, I could just end it there and we could just say it's the Jews. And it is, but it's all these other NGOs. It's any organization that has any kind of a Zionist, we'll say, influence, to say the least. Those are all of the organizations going after Americans and Americans' ability to speak freely, which is our constitutional right. Again, in some of those clips, there's a woman whose audio I've played on the show here before. They've openly said things like, and she says it directly, her name has slipped my mind, but she said, "We're going to come after you in your workplace. We're going to come after your marriage license, when or if you get married, your relationships. We're going to come after, basically everything. Your ability to get a loan, all of it." This is, again, they're drawing the lines in the sand. This is how they operate. That if you criticize them or you deny some historic event that they firmly believe, holla hoax, then all of the sudden they're going to make the walls around your life collapse. They're demonic. There's no way around it. This goes on. It says, as part of this oversight, the committee has issued document subpoenas to 10 technology companies requiring them to produce communications with foreign governments, including the European Commission and European Union member states, regarding content moderation. In July of 2025, the committee published a report detailing how the European Commission, the executive arm of the EU, weaponizes the Digital Services Act, DSA, a law regulating online speech, to impose global online censorship requirements, on political speech, humor, and satire. Since then, pursuant to subpoena, technology companies have produced to the committee thousands of internal documents and communications with the European Commission. These documents show the extent and success of the European Commission's global censorship campaign. Last paragraph here, it says the European Commission, in a comprehensive decade-long effort, has successfully pressured social media platforms to change their global content moderation rules, thereby directly infringing on Americans' online speech in the United States. Though often framed as combating so-called hate speech, quote-unquote, or disinformation, quote-unquote, the European Commission worked to censor true information and political speech about some of the most important policy debates in recent history, including the COVID-19 pandemic, mass migration, and transgender issues. After 10 years, the European Commission has established sufficient control of global online speech and comprehensively suppresses narratives that threaten the European Commission's power. Prior to the committee's subpoenas, these efforts largely occurred in secret. Now the European Commission's efforts have come to light for the first time, informing the committee on legislative steps it can take to protect American free speech online. Okay, deep breath here. People have always called for, certainly since the advent of the internet, they've called for a internet constitution that basically doubles down on the current constitution but applies directly to the internet. There are some in which, again, I'm fine with that, I guess. But we already have a constitution, so what's the point? The debate about that, which I think is an interesting one, is that some people, of course, and rightfully so, they have concerns when they say things like, well, if you rewrite the Constitution for the internet and you cater it toward the internet, you're still rewriting the Constitution, and that's not a good thing. Because then you can manipulate it, you can give certain weight to certain amendments, so to speak, as opposed to others, and XYZ. But I just want people to, again, with that aside, basically, I want people to focus in on just one thing. They specifically highlight, of course, their use of the term hate speech and disinformation. Well, what about, quote-unquote, anti-Semitism? And then they specifically say COVID-19 pandemic, mass migration, and transgender issues. Now, which group of people happens to be behind all three of those things that seek to destroy white, Western, of European descent, civilians? I think we know. Yes, it's them. But that's the point. Again, they're openly, this committee, this American committee, is openly pointing to who is responsible. And it's them. Because it's always them. Let me give you a quick example. There's an ad, or a commercial rather, that's going to play during the Super Bowl. And it's already out there and you can already see it online. And it's put together by the ADL. And it's the old I stand with Israel, I stand with Jews kind of thing. And it's a Jewish kid and he's walking down the middle of a hallway of a high school. And a couple of white kids bump his shoulders and they turn around and they point at him. And then they keep walking and the Jewish kid keeps walking and he looks dejected. And then he's walking down the hallway and there's people staring at the back of him and he doesn't know why. And then he gets up to his locker and he pulls the lock off of his locker and he pulls his backpack off. And on the back of his backpack is a Post-it note that says something like stupid Jew or something like that. And then a black kid walks up to him and he takes a blue Post-it note and he puts the blue Post-it note over the Post-it note that's already on his backpack. And the black kid looks at the Jewish kid and he says, "Don't worry, man. I'm with you. I know exactly how you feel. It's happened to me too." And he goes, "Thanks, man. I appreciate it." And he closes his locker. He puts his backpack back on with both Post-it notes still on his backpack. And then they walk down the hallway, or they just stop right there, and then they just stare at everybody while the black kid also has a blue Post-it note on his chest. Do you see the division here that they're creating? This is being done by Israel. It's being done by Mossad. It's being done by the ADL, the people who pay for the time to have a commercial on American airwaves. This is how they do it. This is how they wage their war. It's just one step at a time. It's one little move at a time. Because now in that commercial, if you know what you're looking at, they're basically saying Jews and blacks are against whites. That's what the commercial is saying. That blacks stand with Jews, Jews stand with blacks, and they both stand against white people. Again, what continues to be fantastic about the Great Awakening, and it is happening, is endless minorities, so to speak, whether they be Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, whatever, they're waking up to this also. They're tired of being used as pawns, either, again, by the Jewish lobby or whoever else. Certainly them. I mean, they use endless people to their own benefit as much as humanly possible, and then they pit different races against one another on purpose to then, again, in some attempt to gain some leverage and certainly maintain some level of control. But more people are waking up to this, and they're seeing right through it, and it's disgusting them. If I was a Black American, I would be insulted by such a commercial. Because, again, if you have half a brain, you can see through the deception, and you can see right into the purposeful division that's being created. So, again, in the last war video, I played a clip of a Black American who was going off on clearly Mossad and the Jewish lobby and the whole thing, and clearly saying that they're sick and tired of them going after white Americans constantly. All the degeneracy and the mixed race couples and this, that, and the other, and the pedophilia in schools and everything. I mean, that's their target, and that's their method of control, is by normalizing all of those perversions. But this was a perfect example, again, of a Black American who's had enough. And there are endless individuals out there just like him, too. So, yeah. The controllers, so to speak, can certainly continue to try. They're satanic, and we know that, but they're losing, and that's why they're panicking. That's why they're having all of these meetings. That's why they're getting more brazen with their talk. What they used to say in private and whisper in private, they now, of course, scream it at the top of their lungs. That's usually the end and the beginning of the end for them. So we'll stay on it, and we'll continue to, to highlight all of this because it has to be highlighted. The last thing that we want in America is the inability to speak freely and have that somehow be criminalized, because that's what they want. It's in all of their documentation dating back centuries. That's what they want today. And they're openly saying it. As far as the European Union is concerned and groups like that, well, they lie through their teeth all the time. They say, well, we love freedom of speech, and that continues to reign around Europe, while, of course, they lock people up for posting a meme or, a piece of satire comedy online, and then, somebody even says something, to the tune of them not liking a particular politician, and then they get a knock on the door from the police, and they say it's a threat, and that we're citing you and taking you down to the station in XYZ. Jacob Hersant, for example, in Australia, is behind bars for 30 days for giving half of a Roman salute in Australia. Again, wrap your head around that. That's ridiculous. He was granted, again, bail in apparently the first court hearing, which is why he was free, but he was denied bail in the second court hearing, which is why he's doing 30 days in jail. Again, all for giving half of a Roman salute after they outlawed anybody's ability to do a Roman salute in Australia. Again, if you pet your dog, as the old meme goes, depending on the size of, the height of your arm and your hand. If you pet a cat, it's not illegal. If you raise your arm up a little bit and you pet a dog, it's not illegal. If you fix your belt at waist height, it's not illegal. If you wave goodbye to somebody, that's not illegal. But if you stick your hand any higher than that, then it's illegal. This is the problem with the world. And again, Australia is a branch of the European Union, so to speak. Same controllers, same affiliations, same kinds of people. So there you go. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, speaking of somebody else who's controlled, certainly by the lobby, as it were, Vivek Ramaswamy, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you're not following the Constitutionalist at WeWillBeFree24 over on X, I highly recommend it. She's got great content over there, and she advocates for Casey Putsch to be the Ohio governor, as do I. And she can't stand Vivek Ramaswamy. She has a poster that says the following, quote, "Your kid is dumb," quote unquote, so says Vivek Ramaswamy. And this is the Vivek Ramaswamy edition, she says. Ohio K-12 test scores down from 2019. In 2014 to 2024, Ohio's foreign-born population increased by 36%. Huh. Maybe that's why test scores are down. The next point she raises, she says the proportion of immigrants in Ohio grew from 2.4% to 5.5% by 2025. Next, she says 3 of every 5 people migrating to Ohio are from foreign-born countries. 2024. Next one, it says Ohio math scores decreased 10 points. Proficiency fell from 65% to 55%. 2019 to 2024. Reading English language arts scores decreased 4%. Proficiency fell from 64 to 60%. 2019 to 2024. Only 60% of K-12 learners are proficient in the English language, as per 2023. She says it's not Ohio children, but the influx of foreigners into Ohio schools. Vivek has no platform, nothing to offer Ohio. A Nepo billionaire who wants to sell Ohio out to tech and our children's jobs to foreigners, unquote. She's 100% right. The aspect, again, in this entire Ohio debate and governor debate and education debate that is getting lost here is the business of teacher education and, of course, the massive amount of loss that teacher education departments have felt over the last 6+ years when it comes to recruitment. There are less and less people who want to be school teachers. When you fill Ohio schools, or any school for that matter, with foreigners, and foreigners who cannot speak English or do not understand manners or our culture or what have you, if you fill the schools with these kinds of people, less and less native-born Americans will want to teach them because they're not civilized. They don't know how to behave. They either cheat or, again, they break the rules, they break the law, whatever it may be. And, of course, as we know, many of the individuals in the profession encourage them to do such things because they are political activists. So not only are you radicalizing through the profession native-born American minors with all of the perversions and political jargon and social engineering and everything else, but you're doing it with foreign students too, which means, again, when you fill these buildings with foreigners, people will not want to be school teachers. They'll walk into these buildings and there will be more brown individuals and they'll say to themselves, I don't want to teach here. I don't want to teach these people. I don't understand their parents. Their parents don't understand me. They have a hard time understanding me. They're not doing well, and my job is on the line if they don't do well. Which then means what for the teacher? The teacher has to look for a way to dumb down their curriculum so that their students pass. Which means they have to dumb themselves down. And that's, again, part of the education profession and part of this foreign influx that is mind-boggling and being lost in this entire debate, I think. And it's not even a debate, it's a war. Remember that somehow if you're not tolerant of illegal children, then there's something wrong with you. Then you're a racist, you're a this, you're a that. Then the name-calling starts. You're a bigot, you're whatever. Well, the fact is that, again, these environments are not set up for foreigners. American schools are not set up to have a vast majority of the student population be foreign, certainly, again, in rural or suburban areas. It's just not set up for that. There's no education for it, not at the teacher education level anyway. There's no professional development for it at the K-12 level. It's just, again, they're digging themselves a hole. They're digging their own grave as a profession. And I'm sitting back and watching the whole thing with a huge smile on my face because I say go for it. Keep doing it. Again, on the social engineering wavelength, and I'm going to slide right into the ICE protests that, of course, took place all this past week, last 7+ days throughout American schools, is you would think that the 2020 COVID lie and the way that all of the schools, again, just bought into all of that stuff, you would think that that alone would have been the tipping point for the vast majority of Americans. And it was a tipping point for many, but not enough. But you would think, again, it would be a convincing point for people to say, okay, these environments are driven by political stories. These environments are driven by, again, social engineering. That's the point. Again, I saw another speech the other day of a black American, and he's at a school board meeting, and he walks up to the lectern, and he's reading from some of these perverse books. This is a video I had not seen, and it was, again, shot from behind. And the school and the state has slipped my mind, my apologies, and I wish I had the audio, but I don't have it anymore. But again, the guy was reading from these passages, and it was a very recent video. And I just remember watching it and thinking to myself, how long has this been going on? How long have people been showing up to school board meetings and reading, directly from perverse books? I mean, that's been happening since before 2020, but certainly after 2020, it ramped into high gear. I think we can all agree on that. But you would think, again, that would be enough for endless people to watch that happen within a specified environment like a school building or a school district, and then say to themselves, okay, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of looking at this knowing that me and my family and our family are participating with our attendance. So we're just going to stop going now. That way, when I look at these videos in the future, which are unavoidable, that I will know that I made the right decision and that I am not sending my children into these environments. But there are still too many people that are doing that. There are still too many people that are sending their children into these kinds of environments where, again, they're being socially engineered on a constant basis. Most recently, of course, when it comes to ICE. I have a particular piece of audio here I'd like to play. This comes from Pennsylvania. And this doesn't have anything to do with ICE, this particular piece of audio, but it has to do, believe it or not, with the Epstein files. Again, the audacity of this female school teacher to bring up the Epstein files as a lesson in current events. And then she cherry picks a particular email that is, of course, 100% false, having to do with Donald Trump and female genitalia and selling girls and whatever else. I mean, you'll hear the clip here in a second, but she brings it up in that context, and she doesn't even give it context. But, of course, she's being recorded on a child's phone, which is why schools wanted to get rid of phones, because they didn't want their educators to be caught in compromising situations like this one. This is an example of a teacher who should be fired. She didn't do her due diligence on the email. She doesn't understand that what she's reading is fraudulent. And she's passing it off as if it's true because it shows Donald Trump in a negative light, even though it's not factually accurate. So this is Phoenixville Area School District in Chester County, Pennsylvania. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
You can find it for yourselves if you'd like, but we have a president that's a child molester. and the testimony multiple times showed that he misbehaved with 13 and 14-year-old girls. And it's in there. It's public knowledge. It's there for you guys to look at if you want. It's pretty disgusting. I can. Would anyone like me to read a section for you? It's a current event. Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? This person, and there's a blank for the whistleblower, reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing this act. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting him, President Trump. The friend said she was also abused by Epstein at the same time. And that's just the first sentence. That's the first paragraph.
The comprachicos of the mind again. That's a perfect example of it. They're young, they're impressionable, they're drawn to gossip, and then she gives them something out of context that is not factually accurate at all. And again, who believes that? Stu Peters believes it, believe it or not. He's lost his mind. Stu Peters, again, at the bottom of the screen I saw online the other day, he had, bodies buried at Trump International Golf Course. Again, he believes that. He thinks that Trump's golf course is loaded with dead bodies of his adversaries, and that he's done this willingly and with his knowledge. It's ridiculous. There's zero proof of any of that. If Epstein or somebody who, again, doesn't like Donald Trump who says such a thing in an email, they're doing that on purpose to get it out there. That way, if the emails get released, people will read it and believe it gullibly, like that female school teacher who should be fired. Because think of all the other sex crimes of individuals that she's not bringing up that she very well probably could. Again, it's not really the environment. But that's the comprachicos of the mind. It's designed to mutilate children and their minds on purpose because they are young and impressionable and will perhaps not do their due diligence and actually look into it. Now, they could come back the very next day with an AI explanation as to, of course, that email not being accurate at all and throw it right back in the teacher's face, but that teacher, of course, isn't going to hear it. But I bet they got a whole lot of emails from parents saying, what in the hell are you doing? Not to mention, it begs the question, what's the sexual obsession with school teachers within school environments? Why do they love it so much? Why do they talk about it all the time? Again, when you have people like that saying things like that, they're, of course, not the only ones. There are endless individuals in all walks of society, of course, in all of these positions that behave that way. Now, getting back to ICE, there's a piece of audio I want to play, and this is from a local city council member in the town where I live who has zero accomplishments to her name. She's a complete fool. Her name is Amber Franklin, black woman. And I think her greatest accomplishment to the city is advocating for children to use colored chalk on sidewalks to draw on. That's the extent of her resume. That's basically it. And she thinks she's changed the world as a result of that. So vandalism is apparently the thing that she enjoys under the guise of, allowing kids to express themselves through drawing on other people's sidewalks. This is from the February 3rd, 2026 City Council meeting in the brainwashed town where I live. And at the end of the meeting, much like school board meetings, they go around, each council member, and they give their 2 cents on whatever subject they want to talk about. And Amber Franklin has a few things she'd like to say about ICE. So give her a listen, and yes, this is hard to listen to. But give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
I also want to I need to speak to the pain that many people are feeling and experiencing in our country right now. It is really hard to look at the images happening around the country in big cities and in small towns, and to see the cruelty that is being unleashed upon our land. It's hard. It's really painful. And there's really a very short and straight line between a candidate who runs calling immigrants vermin who are poisoning the blood of the country, and then a president who violates the constitutional rights of citizens that we have assumed were the safest among us, right? White citizens of the United States who've been here for generations, but yet we're seeing it. One thing that I want to say is that I think there's a lot of frustration because we see people maybe who didn't think it was possible until they saw themselves represented on the receiving end of the cruelty. But I think we have to have some compassion because I think there's some level of human nature where even those of us who are the most compassionate still feel something a little bit more deeply when we see someone who looks or sounds or feels like us receiving cruelty. So yes, we would like for people to feel like if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. But I think there's some level of human nature where we just respond differently. I want us all to understand how inextricably linked our fates are in this country. You look at, I'll end there with that. But I also want to say that I pay close attention every time an officer in Oxford is sworn in, and I couldn't write fast enough to keep up with the oath, but I wrote a few notes, and I want the community to pay attention that our officers take an oath to uphold, to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Ohio, and to apply the law fairly and equally to all persons, solely in the interest of public peace, safety, and welfare. And if all people who were in charge of enforcing the law actually lived up to that oath, we'd be in a very different place. But I am grateful for the leadership in Oxford. I'm grateful for law enforcement at the local level who take this oath, take it seriously, and live by it. And let us support each other because we are going to need each other. It's not going to be a quick fix at all. But we have to contribute to this country in ways that we might not see the benefits of, but children, nieces, grandchildren, that they will see the benefits of. So we got to roll up our sleeves and start working together.
You'll have to forgive her, she's retarded. So she clearly doesn't understand that it's illegal aliens being arrested, emphasis on the word illegal, and that them being here is unconstitutional. And she doesn't know what the Constitution is because she's clearly never read it. She doesn't know the laws of the land. She doesn't know the laws of the state of Ohio. She doesn't know anything. And then all of the sudden again, isn't it interesting that white people have to be arrested in order for them to understand what the pain feels like? I don't give a shit if white people get arrested for breaking the law. I want that to happen. I want all people who break the law to get arrested. But only a race baiter like her would say such a race baiting kind of thing. Now you feel the pain. Now you know what it's like. Yeah, like she's so oppressed. Give me a break. And then again, the backwards compliment to the police department. Again, a female officer was sworn in with the local police department here, and whatever. I pay close attention to who gets sworn in and who gets hired and blah, blah, blah. And I just pray that they do what they're supposed to do and follow the law. Yes, rounding up illegals is following the law. Declaring yourself a quote-unquote sanctuary city is not following the law. Because what you're saying is you're a sanctuary for illegal activity and that you support it and the people who engage in it. That's what you're saying. So when someone actually upholds the Constitution, state or federal, and they come into your town and or city and arrest illegal aliens, as far as you're concerned, they're breaking the law. Again, she's retarded. These people are upside down and inside out. And you cannot fix that woman. There's no fixing it. There's no having a conversation with her. There's no having a debate. There's nothing. You make her irrelevant, and you do it a number of different ways. You play audio of her on a show like this and immortalize her as being a complete moron. That's one of the ways you do it. Another way you do it is you stop voting for her. Now, she won the last election, but, she's a black communist. And around these parts, a black communist is going to get some votes. Certainly from the lesbians around and everybody else. I mean, again, it's, it comes with the territory. It's a liberal college town. But again, they have no accomplishments. They've done nothing. They've accomplished nothing. They've changed nothing. All they've done is confuse children, and she openly admitted, we have to teach children better. Oh, okay, so you're going to teach children to break the law and support illegality. Gotcha. That's good. That's not going to work out well for them. It's no different, again, comprachicos of the mind, allowing a child to dress up as a cat and shit in a litter box in a school building. Same thing, same confusion, same warping of the mind. You've got to take your children away from government as much as humanly possible. Out of school, away from places like this. Again, it's mind-bending. What's funny about these city council meetings, too, is in the back of the room, they almost always have a group of Miami students or high school students who have to show up for some kind of an assignment, whether it be a political science class that they're in or something along those lines. They always end up leaving before the meeting ends, like way before the meeting ends. They show up for maybe the first 30 minutes. They stick around for 30 minutes and then they're like, okay, this sucks. And then they leave. Again, people in city council don't understand, along with all city councils across the nation, is the vast majority of them don't understand that when there's little participation, it doesn't mean that everybody's in agreement with them. It's quite the opposite. It means the vast majority of the people disagree with them. So much so that they don't even want to look at their faces. They don't even want to look at them. Because they're that dumb. And they hold on to the positions, as I've said in the past, because it's all they have. It's the feeling of adequacy, which is why they run for the positions in the first place, because without it, they feel inadequate. Because they are inadequate. There isn't a truthful word she said. Not one. But there you go. And people like that are all over the place. You can't save that. Now, if she's interested in people following the Constitution, what about this level of illegality? Here's another clip, yes, another one, of Anissa Liban, the Somali Westerville, Ohio school board member, who took in $161,000 for her campaign, including donations from healthcare centers or Leering centers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, along with at least two other locations, Seattle and another place, I believe. A couple of places in Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken, or wherever. But then all of a sudden decided to remove all of the donations from Minneapolis, Minnesota from her most recent filing with the Secretary of State's office. Convenient. Thereby making approximately $80,000 disappear. Here's a 16-second clip of her bragging about the levels of donations that she received in even singular donations, not over the course of time, adding up to $5,000, but just in one go, as she says. Give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
And can we just give a round of applause to all the generous donors who have donated? I mean, there are people here who have donated, I kid you not, $5,000, like in one go, $2,000, $1,000, because they believe so much in this movement that we are doing right.
That we are doing right? She's looking for affirmation. That's why she ends her sentence with the word right with an upward inflection. Right? Right? Do you agree with me? No, we don't. You're obtaining money illegally. You're laundering it for whatever reasons, and you're using it for whatever reasons. This woman has no problem as a school board member, again, a school board member, going to a microphone on Ohio Somali TV, OSTV, you can look it up on YouTube, it's a real thing, and just giving these long-winded speeches. The funny part about the Somalis is they're so brazen. They don't understand that the more that they talk, the more guilty they look. Criminals usually keep their mouths shut. Not in the Epstein files, of course. They talk all the time, but that's one of the flaws of a criminal, is they talk too much. The good ones stay quiet in the shadows and you don't even know what they look like. The dumbest ones, they'll always find a microphone. They always come up to a microphone and a camera, and they'll always just run their mouths about their illegality, painting it as if it's some, philanthropic endeavor, and that we have a mission. Well, what is your mission? We know what your mission is. It's a rhetorical question. It's to flood the entire state with illegals, to flood them with Somalis, and take those jobs from Americans, which is exactly what Vivek Ramaswamy wants to allow as well. Mike DeWine's been allowing it this entire time. John Kasich, the former governor of Ohio, he did the exact same thing. He was all for it. Bring in the illegals. What's the problem? Then DeWine shows up and it's bring in the Haitians, bring in the Somalis. What's the problem? The simple fact, again, that you have out-of-state judges intervening in the deportation of illegal aliens because the temporary protective status has run out, but they've said, no, wait a minute, stop. They get to stay until we make other decisions here sometime in the future, but we're not sure when we're going to make them. That's a serious civil war. That's a civil war. That's an interstate civil war over mass illegal immigration, which is not immigration. It's an invasion. Some people are advocating for it, and others are saying, no, we can't have this. No more invasion. Doesn't matter how you paint it. It's not migration. They're not, foreigners working here legally. That isn't it. They're invaders. They're invading. And they're turning white, rural, and suburban areas into utter shitholes as often as possible. Just look at, again, their own countries. They can't stay where they are and fix their own countries, so they have to come here and make ours look like theirs. No more. It has to stop. Okay. 2 more things and 1 more piece of audio. Actually, 1 more thing and 1 more piece of audio. There was an Epstein email here that was to Jeffrey Epstein from a James Haywood, and it was sent on, July 17th, 2018 at 9:00 p.m., and the subject was off-grid regarding intro, potential angel investment opportunity maybe, and then it says nuclear in parentheses. Quote, body of the email, we need to discuss World War III, and the investors want to know if we are still planning February 8th, 2026. Please be advised that I am on vacation till July 29th. I will be attempting to be off-grid, quote unquote. My assistant, Rachel Haynes, can help if it is urgent. Jamie, unquote. I just find the date to be interesting. February 8th, 2026, World War III. I don't know what that means. I really don't care. But whatever they had planned, it probably wasn't good. I'm actually going to end it there. I don't have a piece of audio to play. The piece of audio I was going to play is older. It's from about 6 months ago. A little longer than that, actually, but it had to do with the largest takedown in American history related to healthcare fraud. And they indicted approximately 324 individuals for all kinds of healthcare-related fraud. And these are individuals, again, who are Somali and African and Jewish and using Israeli banks as well. They mention Russia in their little speech. Some of the defendants were from Estonia, Czech Republic, Nigeria. Again, these were some of the schemes, Pakistan as well, and Pakistani individuals having to do, again, with copious amounts of healthcare fraud and Medicare fraud within the United States. Again, in the billions at least, so tens of billions. Again, the simple fact that that was brought up approximately 6+ months ago in the largest takedown allegedly in American history. Imagine the COVID lie. Imagine the amount of money that traded hands during the COVID lie. That should be the biggest one in American history, you'd think. But even so, the fact that that happened 6+ months ago, and then here all of a sudden, now we have all of the Somali healthcare fraud and the leering stations and child care stations and whatever else. This is the tip of the iceberg, and this is only going to get bigger. And there have already been plenty of arrests, but there have to be more, and they have to be very public. I'm not very keen on them keeping things a secret, certainly the races and origins of these individuals and where they come from and what they're doing. But usually when they don't tell you, you can take a pretty good guess as to where they're from and who they associate with. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it's been one hell of a busy week, and this is, again, the tip of the iceberg here. It's only going to get more intense, and certainly with the Clintons testifying here in the future, and more students protesting ICE and being brainwashed by their brainwashed handlers within American schools, it's going to get more wild, no doubt about it. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll catch you on Monday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.